The entire ballroom froze the moment the billionaire CEO said her name. Not her aunt's daughters, her. The girl no one wanted, the secret everyone buried. And when he slipped the diamond ring on her finger, every camera flashed, every jaw dropped. Because the world knew what this meant. A war was about to begin. Would you still say yes if love meant betraying your own blood? Her hands trembled as she watched him walk toward her, tall, magnetic, and untouchable in his black tuxedo. Every camera turned. Every aunt's daughter, Clara and Beatrice, froze in disbelief. They were the perfect socialites, polished, poised, bred for the kind of marriage that sealed business empires. Evelyn wasn't like them. She was the girl who grew up in her aunt's shadow, serving drinks at her cousin's parties, always hearing the same line whispered behind her back. She's just the help in designer shoes. But tonight, everything changed. Adrian stopped inches away from her, the room holding its breath. "Evelyn Hart," he said, voice calm but commanding. "You're the woman I've chosen, not them." Gasps broke through the music. Clara's glass slipped and shattered. Beatrice turned pale. Their mother, Evelyn's aunt, stood rigid, fury masked by a strained smile. Evelyn's heart raced, every emotion crashing inside her. She couldn't tell if it was love or fear or both. Just 6 months earlier, she'd been working at Cole Industries as an unnoticed intern, the girl who fetched coffee, drafted reports, and stayed invisible. Her aunt's daughters had mocked her for dreaming too big. But she hadn't been chasing status, only a chance to prove she was more than her last name. Until the day she met Adrian. He wasn't like the stories said, not the cold, calculating billionaire people whispered about. He'd been quiet, reserved, lonely even. And when he'd first smiled at her, really smiled, she'd felt something she'd buried long ago. Hope. What she didn't know then was that his attention would soon ignite a storm, one that would tear her family apart. As applause reluctantly began, Evelyn tried to breathe through the noise. Her aunt's daughters glared at her from across the hall, their perfect lives cracking under humiliation. Adrian reached for her hand. "Don't be afraid," he murmured. "Everything's about to change." She believed him. But what she didn't know was that love chosen under pressure often comes with a price. And that price would demand everything. Her family, her reputation, even her heart. If you were Evelyn, standing before a man the world worships, knowing your choice would destroy your family, would you still say yes? Tell me in the comments. Love or loyalty, which would you choose? Welcome back, my beautiful family and friends. I have missed you all. Missed all the experiences we've had together. It's been a rough ride as we're currently battling some technical issues, but trust me, we're getting everything back and running. So stick around. I need your support on YouTube, now more than ever. Thank you specially for sticking around to this very moment. Long before the golden ballroom and flashing lights, Evelyn Hart lived in a quiet corner of her aunt's mansion, the smallest room at the end of the servant hallway. Her parents had died when she was 11, leaving her with little but a surname that carried no weight and a heart full of dreams. Her aunt, Margaret Hart, had taken her in, but never with love. "You'll have food, shelter, and a roof," Aunt Margaret used to say. That should be enough gratitude from an orphan. And Evelyn, knowing her place, smiled through every cutting word. Her cousins, Clara and Beatrice, ruled the house. They were everything Evelyn wasn't: refined, admired, and wealthy. Their laughter echoed through the mansion like a melody Evelyn could never join. Every morning, Evelyn brewed their coffee before heading to her part-time job at Cole Industries, where she worked as a junior assistant in the marketing department. The irony? Clara and Beatrice's father had business ties with the same company. In Evelyn's employment, there was nothing but charity, or so they liked to remind her. "Oh, sweet Evie," Clara would sneer, brushing her perfect hair. "Make sure you don't spill coffee on the CEO again. He might notice you exist." And Evelyn would bite her tongue, choosing silence over pride, because pride didn't pay the bills. That Monday morning was supposed to be just another gray day, typing reports, running errands, keeping her head down. But fate doesn't announce itself before it changes everything. She was in the executive lobby, balancing a tray of lattes for a board meeting when the elevator doors opened. Out stepped Adrian Cole. He wasn't just handsome, he was imposing. The kind of man whose silence commanded attention more than any speech could. His eyes were sharp, distant, unreadable. For a moment, she froze. She'd seen him in magazines, on TV, always surrounded by power. But in person, he seemed tired, human. And when one of the cups tipped, spilling coffee onto the marble floor, she gasped. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," she blurted, kneeling to clean it up. Adrian's voice was low, steady. "It's fine. Are you okay?" He bent down slightly, something no CEO ever did, and handed her a napkin. Their eyes met for the first time. Something in that glance lingered. Not pity, but recognition. A spark. Later that day, she found a note on her desk. "Next time, make it black, no sugar. AC." A small smile tugged at her lips. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was everything. From that moment on, their paths intertwined quietly. Adrian started noticing her. The way she thought, the quiet confidence in her reports, her refusal to gossip. And Evelyn started noticing him too. The loneliness behind his perfection, the burden he carried like invisible armor. They were two people from different worlds, yet somehow both outsiders in their own stories. But the world noticed too. Rumors spread in the corridors. Her colleagues whispered that she was chasing the CEO. Clara and Beatrice, upon hearing it, laughed over dinner. "Evie's got herself a billionaire now," Beatrice joked, twirling her glass of wine. "How adorable. Maybe he'll buy her some confidence." Aunt Margaret didn't laugh. Her eyes burned with a silent warning Evelyn would soon understand. "Don't forget who you are, child. You're not one of us, and you never will be." 2 weeks later, Evelyn's inbox pinged with an unexpected message, an invitation to the Cole Industries annual gala. From a.cole@colin.com. "You've earned this. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." Her breath caught. No assistant had ever been personally invited to that event. And when Clara and Beatrice found out, their laughter stopped. That was the night everything started shifting. The first move in a game Evelyn didn't even know she was playing. Have you ever been underestimated until someone finally saw your worth? Share your story in the comments below. Sometimes one moment of recognition changes everything. The night of the Cole Industries annual gala shimmered like a dream wrapped in diamonds. Every wall of the Grand Regent Hotel glittered with gold. Every guest was someone who owned a piece of the city. And somewhere between the orchestra's strings and the hum of whispered fortunes stood Evelyn Hart, wearing a borrowed gown and borrowed confidence. It was her first time stepping into a world that wasn't meant for her. She could still hear Aunt Margaret's voice in her head. "Don't embarrass us. Remember, you're lucky to be invited, not deserving." Her aunt's daughters, Clara in crimson and Beatrice in emerald, were already floating across the room like royalty. They were there as guests of honor, their father's connections ensuring every camera adored them. Evelyn stayed near the back, quietly clutching her invitation, until he appeared. Adrian Cole entered without an announcement. No need for one. The air shifted the moment he walked in. Every conversation softened. Every eye turned. He was the youngest billionaire in the city, intelligent, disciplined, and famously unattached. Until that night. He scanned the room once, twice, and then his gaze stopped. On her. Evelyn felt her heart trip in her chest. He started walking, not toward the investors, not toward the reporters, but directly toward her. Her aunt's smile faltered. Clara's hand tightened around her glass. "Miss Hart," Adrian said softly when he reached her. "You came. You invited me." She managed, her voice trembling. He smiled, a rare, quiet curve of his lips that no one ever saw. "Then I'm glad I did." And before she could protest, he extended his hand. "Dance with me." The orchestra changed tune, and the ballroom floor parted as the billionaire CEO and the orphaned assistant began to dance. It felt unreal, like the world had gone silent just for them. Her feet moved on instinct. Her nerves melted into the rhythm. "Everyone's watching," she whispered. "Let them," he replied. "They should know I see you." For a moment, Evelyn forgot everything. The gossip, the cruelty, the years of invisibility. She was simply seen. By the end of the song, the whispers had become thunder. Who is she? That's Evelyn Hart, Margaret's niece. He's dancing with her? Aunt Margaret's face had gone pale beneath her makeup. Clara looked murderous. Beatrice's smile trembled, thin and fake. When the music stopped, Adrian escorted Evelyn to the balcony, away from the cameras. The city lights stretched below them, endless, alive. You don't belong in their shadow, he said quietly. Neither do you, she replied. He laughed, a sound that came from somewhere deep, the kind that only escaped when someone forgot they were powerful. Evelyn, he said, softer now, I want to know you. Not as an employee, but as you. Her breath caught. People will talk. They already do, he said, stepping closer. But I've learned something in business and in life. The only voices that matter are the ones you let inside your heart. Then came a silence heavy enough to break, followed by something even more dangerous than words. Hope. When Evelyn returned to the ballroom, Aunt Margaret was waiting near the corridor, her expression carved from ice. You have no idea what you've just done, she hissed. Adrian Cole is not a man you get to touch. He's a man you serve. Stay away from him before you destroy us all. Evelyn didn't answer. She didn't have to. The decision had already been made, by her heart, and perhaps by fate. But somewhere across the room, Clara's eyes burned with quiet vengeance, and Beatrice whispered something to a reporter that would soon turn Evelyn's world upside down. Because love in the wrong hands becomes a weapon, and that weapon was now pointed directly at Evelyn Hart. If someone powerful noticed you, truly saw you, would you risk everything for that chance, even if it meant losing the people who raised you? Tell me in the comments. Would you choose the heart or the family name? The morning after the gala, Evelyn's face was everywhere. News outlets buzzed with headlines that felt like poison disguised as glamour. The Billionaire and the Orphan. Adrian Cole's mystery date shocks high society. Margaret Hart's niece caught in a scandalous dance. She read every line with trembling hands. Her coffee went cold. Her name, her very existence, had been turned into gossip. The comments were cruel. Gold digger. She planned this. Another poor girl try and climb the ladder through charm. By noon, HR had called her in for questioning. This kind of attention isn't appropriate for an intern, the director said, avoiding her eyes. Mr. Cole insists you stay, but you should know people are talking. Evelyn walked out of the office with her chest heavy. She didn't need anyone to tell her who had started it. It had her aunt's perfume all over it. That evening, Evelyn returned to her aunt's mansion, the place that never quite felt like home. She expected silence. Instead, she found her aunt and cousins gathered in the drawing room, sipping wine like royalty awaiting a confession. Aunt Margaret's voice cut the air first. Do you have any idea how humiliated I was today? Evelyn stood still. I didn't do anything wrong. Clara laughed. Didn't you? You threw yourself at a man twice your league in front of the entire city. He asked me to dance. Evelyn replied quietly. And you said yes. Beatrice shot back, her eyes gleaming with cruelty. Congratulations, Evelyn, you've officially dragged our family name through mud. Aunt Margaret rose, her face a cold mask. You think he'll choose you? You're a charity case, a distraction. Once he's bored, you'll be forgotten. And when that happens, don't come running back here. The words stung like acid, but Evelyn held her ground. Maybe you won't forget, she said softly. And maybe I won't either. For a second, her aunt's eyes flickered. Not anger, but something deeper. Fear. That was when Evelyn realized something strange. Margaret wasn't just angry. She was terrified. But of what? 2 days later, Adrian summoned her to his office. His expression was tense, guarded, the calm mask of a man used to control, now cracking. Evelyn, he began, someone leaked your personal file to the media. Your address, your past, even your parents' death record. I've hired a private investigator, and I think it came from within your family. She froze. My family. Yes, there's more. He turned his laptop to face her, an email printed on screen. From Beatrice.Hart@HartProperties.com subject. About Evelyn Hart. Thought you should know who you're dealing with. The blood drained from her face. "She sent this to a reporter," Adrian said. "I can protect you from the press. But Evelyn, I can't protect you from what comes next if you stay silent." Her throat ached. "She's my cousin, and she's trying to destroy you." He reached for her hand across the desk, his touch steady. "You don't deserve this. Let me handle it." But Evelyn shook her head. "No. If I let you fight my battles, I'll always be the girl people say used a man to rise. I have to face them myself." He looked at her for a long moment, admiration flickering through frustration. "Then I'll stand beside you," he said finally. And he meant it. A week later, Evelyn attended her aunt's charity luncheon, an event filled with whispers and shallow smiles. She could feel the judgment like heat against her skin. Clara approached her with a saccharine grin. "Evie, darling, Adrian Cole didn't come today? That's strange. Maybe he's finally realized what kind of girl you are." Evelyn turned to her calmly. "You mean someone honest?" Clara's smirk faltered. Then, out of nowhere, the ballroom doors opened, and Adrian walked in, his presence commanding as ever. Every camera shifted. Every head turned. He didn't glance at anyone else. He went straight to Evelyn, slid his arm around her waist, and said loudly enough for everyone to hear, "Forgive me for being late, love." The word love echoed like thunder. Aunt Margaret nearly dropped her champagne. Clara's smile collapsed. Beatrice's face drained of color. Evelyn's pulse raced, but she didn't step away. For the first time, she didn't hide. If this was a war of perception, she was done fighting from the shadows. Later that night, Margaret stormed into Evelyn's room. "Do you have any idea what you're doing?" she demanded. "You think love makes you powerful? It makes you vulnerable. Men like Adrian Cole build empires. They don't share them." "You sound like you know him better than I do," Evelyn said. Margaret froze. For a heartbeat, her expression cracked, like a wall hit by light. "Just stay away from him," she whispered finally, "before history repeats itself." Then she turned and left, leaving Evelyn more confused than ever. History repeats itself. What history? What had her aunt meant by that? Something told Evelyn that the connection between her aunt and Adrian's world wasn't new. It was buried, and it was about to surface. Would you have confronted your family if you found out they were behind your humiliation, or walked away in silence to protect them? Speech balloon, comment your thoughts. When blood betrays love, which should you choose? The next few days were heavy with tension. Evelyn barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, her aunt's words echoed through her mind. Before history repeats itself. She didn't know what it meant, but she knew it wasn't just bitterness. There was fear behind it, a kind of dread that didn't belong to pride, but to memory. And so, she did what she'd always done best. She searched for the truth quietly, patiently, like someone peeling back layers of old wallpaper, revealing what others had tried to hide. That Saturday, Evelyn went down to the basement of the mansion, a space no one visited anymore. Dust clung to the air, and old portraits leaned against the wall like ghosts waiting to speak. She found her mother's trunk, one her aunt had always forbidden her to open. Her fingers hesitated on the latch, then flipped it open. Inside were faded letters, a few photographs, and a locket she'd never seen before. She picked up one of the letters, trembling as she read. "My dearest Margaret, I don't know how to ask you to forgive me. I never meant for this to happen, but I love him. Adrian Cole's father is not the man the world thinks he is. Please, don't let hate destroy our family. Elise." Evelyn's eyes widened. Her mother had loved Adrian's father? She shuffled through more letters, all written in the same delicate handwriting. Each one revealed a secret affair between Evelyn Hart, Evelyn's mother, and Edward Cole, Adrian's late father. The affair had ended tragically when Evelyn's parents died in what was said to be a car accident. But what if it wasn't just an accident? She suddenly understood. Her aunt's cruelty wasn't about class or reputation. It was revenge. Her mother had taken the man her aunt loved, and now Evelyn had taken his son. History, indeed, was repeating itself. Evelyn stormed into her aunt's study, clutching the letters. "How long were you going to let me live in your house and hate me for something I didn't do?" she demanded. Margaret turned, startled, then froze at the sight of the papers in Evelyn's hands. "You went through my things," she said quietly. "I went through my mother's things," Evelyn shot back. "And I know everything. You loved Edward Cole, but he loved her." Margaret's expression cracked. Years of control melting away into grief. "He was supposed to marry me," she whispered. "Our families had an arrangement. And then she came, your mother, with her soft voice and her kindness. He fell for her, and everything changed. She broke the family apart. So you punished her daughter?" Evelyn's voice broke. "You punished me?" Tears welled in Margaret's eyes, but her voice stayed hard. "You think it's punishment? It's protection. You don't know what power that family holds. You don't know what your mother died for." "Then tell me," Evelyn cried. Margaret looked away. "It wasn't an accident, Evelyn. Your mother didn't just die." She was silenced. "Edward's wife found out, and by morning, the car was off the road. They called it a tragedy, but it was a message." The room spun. Evelyn stumbled back, her chest tightening. "You knew all this, and you said nothing? What would you have done? Declared war on billionaires? They would have destroyed you." Evelyn's voice trembled. "Adrian isn't his father. He's not like them." Margaret looked at her, sorrow flickering in her gaze. "That's what your mother said, too." That night, Evelyn drove to Adrian's penthouse, heart pounding, letters clutched her chest. When he opened the door, the sight of her face told him everything. "You found something," he said quietly. "I found us," she whispered. "Our families have been tied together longer than we ever knew." She showed him the letters. His eyes scanned the pages, disbelief turning to horror. "My father and your mother," he murmured. "God." He sank into the couch, his jaw tightening. "I remember my parents fighting. I was a child, but I heard his name, Elise. My mother threw a vase. He didn't come home that night." The silence that followed was unbearable. "Evelyn," he said finally, "this doesn't change how I feel about you." "Doesn't it?" she asked softly. "Our parents destroyed each other. What if we're just their echo?" Adrian stood, his voice firm. "Then we end the cycle. We don't run from it." But before Evelyn could respond, his phone buzzed, a message that made his face pale. "What is it?" she asked. He handed her the phone. It was a tabloid article, already trending. CEO Adrian Cole's affair with Evelyn Hart's daughter. A twisted love story repeating history. Below, it was a photo of her leaving his penthouse that very night. Someone had followed her. Someone had leaked this. And only one family knew where she was going. By morning, the media storm was unbearable. Protesters gathered outside Cole Industries. Investors demanded explanations, and reporters swarmed the Hart estate. Aunt Margaret was nowhere to be found. Clara and Beatrice hid behind rehearsed statements. Adrian called an emergency press conference. Evelyn begged him not to. "They'll crucify you," she warned. "They already are," he replied. "I'm done hiding." He walked onto that stage like a man, with nothing left to lose. Cameras flashed. The world waited. "The woman you've been mocking and dissecting," he said steadily, "is not a scandal. She's the most honest person I've ever known. Yes, her mother and my father had history, but their past is not our present. I love Evelyn Hart, and I choose her, regardless of what anyone says." The words echoed across the room. Evelyn watched from backstage, tears streaming down her face. The same sentence that had once destroyed her mother, now reborn in truth and courage. If you discovered your love was connected to the deepest betrayal in your family's past, would you stay to heal it, or walk away to protect your heart? Speech balloon comment below. Could love survive such a truth? The morning after the press conference, the city woke up divided. Half the world called Adrian Cole a fool in love. The other half called Evelyn Hart a schemer, the daughter of the woman who once broke the Cole dynasty. The headlines were brutal. History repeats. The Harts destroy another Cole. Evelyn Hart, gold digger or love redeemer. Everywhere she went, cameras flashed, voices screamed. Her image, the shy girl from forgotten family, was now on every gossip site in the country. At Cole Industries, board members demanded Adrian's resignation. The scandal had shaken investor confidence. Stocks dropped overnight. Inside the boardroom, Adrian stood tall, though exhaustion shadowed his face. "You want to replace me? Go ahead," he said. But understand this, the only thing I'm guilty of is choosing love over fear. An older director sneered. Your father built this company with discipline. You're burning it down for a woman. Then maybe it deserves to burn, Adrian replied quietly. Because I refuse to become him. He walked out, ignoring the murmurs behind him. Outside, Evelyn was waiting in his car, sunglasses hiding the tears she'd been fighting all morning. How bad? She asked softly. Bad enough that I might lose everything, he said. Then maybe I should go, she whispered. Before you lose more. He reached for her hand. You're the only thing I haven't lost yet. That night, Evelyn returned home to find Aunt Margaret waiting. Her aunt's face was pale, almost fragile, not with anger this time, but fear. You shouldn't have gone public, Margaret said. Do you have any idea what you've done? The truth needed to be told, Evelyn said quietly. No more lies. No more pretending. Margaret's voice cracked. You think truth will protect you? You think those people care about truth? They will eat you alive, Evelyn. Evelyn turned away, clutching her coat. Then let them. I'm done hiding. But as she reached the door, Margaret said something that made her stop cold. Do you even know who leaked that story? Evelyn froze. You're saying it wasn't you? Margaret shook her head, tears in her eyes. No, but I know who it was. Evelyn's breath hitched as Margaret handed her a tablet. On the screen was a private message chain. One of her cousins, Beatrice, negotiating with a tabloid journalist. I can give you photos of them together. I know where she's staying. Just promise anonymity. Beatrice, Evelyn whispered, her voice breaking. She did it to win my favor, Margaret said bitterly. She thought if she exposed you, I'd finally see her as the rightful heir. I didn't know until it was too late. The betrayal cut deeper than anything Evelyn had imagined. Her own blood, her own family, had sold her for attention and approval. Evelyn drove to Adrian's penthouse that night, her eyes swollen from crying. He opened the door, relief flashing in his face, until he saw her expression. What happened? He asked. It was Beatrice, she said quietly. She sold the story. My cousin. My family. Adrian's jaw tightened. Then you stay here. You're safe with me. But she shook her head. You're already paying for my family's mistakes, Adrian. I can't let you lose everything because of me. Evelyn, you said your father destroyed your mother's life. I won't be the reason you lose yours. He reached for her hand, but she stepped back. I love you, she said softly. That's why I have to go. And before he could stop her, she turned and walked out, leaving behind the man who had risked everything for her. The days that followed were a blur. Evelyn packed her things quietly and moved to a small town far from the city. She stopped answering calls, changed her number, and disappeared from the headlines. Adrian tried to reach her, once, twice, 100 times, but every attempt went unanswered. Coal Industries moved on without him. The world forgot. But he didn't. Every evening, he sat on the same balcony they used to share, her laughter now just a memory in the wind. If you love someone but knew staying would destroy their future, would you leave to protect them or fight to stay no matter the cost? Speech balloon comment below. Would you choose sacrifice or defiance? 6 months later, the city had moved on, but Adrian hadn't. He no longer stood at the head of Coal Industries. Instead, he started a new foundation, one dedicated to education and rebuilding small communities. He named it the Evelyn Project. Every brick, every scholarship, every smile he saw reminded him of her, of what love could create when it wasn't fighting to survive. He didn't do interviews anymore. He didn't attend galas or dinners. He simply worked, quietly, tirelessly, hoping one day she'd hear about what he'd built and know it was all for her. Evelyn was working as an art teacher at a local school. Her days were filled with paint-stained fingers, laughter, and the scent of sea salt drifting through open windows. For the first time in years, she was at peace. Yet sometimes, when she watched the sunset bleed across the horizon, she'd whisper his name under her breath and wonder if he was doing the same. She never told anyone who she really was. Not about the billionaire who once held her hand, nor the world that had chewed her up and spit her out. To her students, she was simply Miss Hart, the kind woman who taught them how to see beauty in broken things. One Saturday morning, Evelyn was helping organize a charity art auction at the local community center. The event was small, mostly local artists and donors, until a last-minute addition appeared on the guest list. Adrian Cole Foundation, anonymous donation. The name made her heart skip, but she brushed it off. There must be hundreds of people with that name, she told herself, until he walked in. He looked different, simpler clothes, no bodyguards, no entourage. Just him, just Adrian. Their eyes met across the room. Time stopped. The paintbrush slipped from her hand, splattering blue on the floor. Neither of them moved for several seconds, afraid that if they blinked, the moment would disappear. After the auction, he found her by the sea, the waves crashing softly against the rocks. "I didn't think I'd ever see you again," he said, voice low. "You weren't supposed to," she replied. "You were meant to forget." "I tried," he said simply, "but every day without you felt like breathing in glass." She turned away, tears shimmering in her eyes. "You lost everything because of me, Adrian." "No," he whispered, stepping closer. "I lost everything when you left." Silence. Only the waves spoke. Then she said, almost in a whisper, "Why are you here?" "Because I had to see for myself," he said. "If you were okay. If you still looked at the ocean the way you used to." Her lip trembled. "And what did you see?" He smiled faintly. "I saw home." They walked for hours along the shore, talking not about the past, but the present, the small things, the quiet joys. He told her about the foundation. She told him about her students. Every sentence rebuilt a bridge that had once burned. By the time the sun set, the distance between them was gone. "You don't have to come back," he said softly. "I just wanted you to know I never stopped believing in us." "And if I want to?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. He looked at her, eyes gentle. "Then don't ask for permission." She smiled through her tears. "Then I guess I'm home." And when he pulled her into his arms, the world, for the first time in a long time, felt right again. Have you ever loved someone so deeply that even time couldn't erase them from your heart? Comment below. Would you forgive someone who walked away to protect you? The morning after their reunion, Evelyn and Adrian sat by the window of her little seaside home. The golden light spilled over the table where 2 cups of untouched coffee cooled between them. For a while, neither spoke. The silence wasn't awkward. It was heavy with the weight of everything unsaid. Finally, Evelyn exhaled softly. "Adrian, there's something I never told you." He looked up, attentive, gentle. "You don't owe me anything, Evelyn." "Maybe not," she said, "but I owe the truth to both of us." Evelyn reached into a drawer and pulled out a faded brown envelope. Inside were old letters, yellowed by time, ink smeared by tears. "These were written by my mother," she said. "To your father." Adrian froze. "My father?" Evelyn nodded. "They loved each other once, before your family found out, before the Harts and Coles became enemies." She placed one of the letters on the table. The handwriting was elegant, trembling. "I am leaving, not because I stopped loving you, but because I can no longer live in a world that hates what we are." Adrian stared at the words, his throat tightening. "He told me she betrayed him, that she left for money, for someone else." "She didn't," Evelyn whispered. "She left because your grandfather threatened her. He told her if she didn't disappear, he'd destroy her family. And he did." Adrian rose from his chair, fury and grief colliding inside him. "He destroyed my mother too," he said bitterly. "She was never the same after she found out about my father's first love. He carried that ghost to his grave." Evelyn stood beside him, voice trembling. "Our parents were the first victims of this hate. We were just the next generation to pay the price." Adrian's eyes darkened with resolve. "Then it ends today." They returned to the city that weekend. Cole Industries was hosting its annual investor summit, the very event Adrian once commanded. When he and Evelyn walked in, the room fell silent. Every camera turned toward them. At the head table sat Margaret Hart, her expression unreadable, and the new CEO, Adrian's uncle, the last remnant of the old Cole bloodline. He rose, voice cold. "You have no right to be here, Adrian. You resigned." Adrian stepped forward. "I resigned from the company, not from the truth." The crowd stirred. He held up the letters, his father's and Evelyn's mother's, and began to read aloud. Every word cut through the room like thunder. This feud wasn't born from betrayal. It was born from lies, from men who couldn't stand the idea of love crossing class and family lines. Gasps filled the air. The board members exchanged stunned glances. Margaret closed her eyes, tears spilling down her cheeks. "We destroyed generations of peace for pride," she whispered. Adrian's uncle slammed a hand on the table. "You can't prove any of this. It's just letters." But then Margaret stood, holding up her phone. "Actually, I can. Your father recorded everything. He kept a confession, one he never wanted the public to hear." The room went silent as she pressed play. From the speakers came the trembling voice of Adrian's late father. "If you're hearing this, it means I never had the courage to tell the truth. I loved Evelyn Hart. I broke her heart to protect my family's name. And I've lived every day since wishing I'd chosen love instead." Gasps erupted. Cameras flashed. Reporters surged forward. And in that moment, everything changed. The Cole legacy, the empire built on lies, began to crumble before their eyes. Adrian's uncle resigned on the spot, his reputation shattered. Margaret, for the first time, stepped forward and apologized publicly to Evelyn and Adrian. "I was blinded by envy," she said through tears. "I taught my daughters to hate what I didn't understand. I see now, love was never the enemy." Evelyn reached out, trembling, and embraced her aunt. For the first time in years, there was peace between them. As the cameras turned to Adrian, he took Evelyn's hand in his. "My father and her mother couldn't be together," he said. "But maybe this is our chance to finish the love story they couldn't." The crowd erupted in applause. Not the applause of shareholders, but of people who had just witnessed something real. Adrian leaned close and whispered, "We did it, Evelyn. It's over." She smiled through her tears. "No, Adrian, it's just beginning. If your family's past mistakes tried to destroy your future, would you fight to rewrite your story or walk away forever? Comment below. Would you confront the past or let it stay buried?" The morning after the press conference that changed everything, the city felt quieter, lighter. The news channels no longer spoke of scandal or betrayal. Instead, they spoke of forgiveness, truth, and a love story that broke generations of hate. For the first time, Evelyn didn't flinch when her name appeared on the screen. And for the first time, Adrian smiled when he heard his father's voice in the recording, because the truth, no matter how painful, had finally set them free. A week later, Evelyn and Adrian drove back to the old Cole estate, a place that had once symbolized power and fear, now standing silent, waiting for rebirth. The garden was overgrown, the fountains dry, the hallways filled with dust and echoes. Evelyn walked through the empty rooms, her fingers brushing the faded walls. "It's strange," she whispered. "Your father built all this to protect his name, and now it's just a memory." Adrian nodded. "Then maybe it's time to build something new. Together." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small key, gold, delicate, engraved with her initials. "What's this?" she asked. "A new home," he said softly. "Not a mansion, not a tower, just a house by the sea, the one where you taught. It's yours, ours." Her breath caught. "Adrian, you don't have to." "I know," he interrupted, smiling. "That's why I want to." In the following months, the world witnessed something extraordinary. Margaret Hart and the Cole board came together to form a new foundation, one built on collaboration between both families. They called it the Bridge Initiative. The goal? To provide scholarships, mentorships, and opportunities for young people who came from rival communities, proving that love could rebuild what pride once destroyed. Evelyn became its first director. Adrian became its lead investor. And together, they turned the wounds of their past into something beautiful. It wasn't a royal event or a billionaire's extravaganza. Their wedding took place on the very same beach where they reunited. Only close friends, family, and a few students from Evelyn's art class attended. The ocean glimmered behind them as Evelyn walked barefoot across the sand, her simple white dress flowing with the breeze. Adrian stood waiting. No tuxedo, no cameras, just a man, finally free, waiting for the woman who changed everything. "You look like the rest of my life," he whispered when she reached him. Evelyn laughed softly. And you look like the part of my story I never want to end. They exchanged vows written in their own words, not about wealth or power, but about truth, patience, and second chances. When they kissed, the crowd cheered, the waves crashed, and it felt like the world itself sighed in relief. Their seaside home bloomed with life. Evelyn's studio was filled with children's art, bright colors, laughter, hope. Adrian's foundation thrived, now international, changing lives every day. Every evening, they sat together on the balcony, watching the sunset paint the ocean gold. Do you ever think about what would have happened if you hadn't chosen me? Evelyn asked one night, leaning on his shoulder. Every day, Adrian said with a smile. And every day, I'm grateful I did. She chuckled. Even after everything, he turned to her, eyes soft. Especially after everything. Because that's what made us real. On the anniversary of their wedding, they visited the graves of their parents, side by side now, as they had requested. Evelyn placed a single white rose between the tombstones and whispered, "Your story ended in silence, but ours began in truth. Rest now, we've finished what you started." The wind carried her words through the trees, and for a moment, it felt like the past finally exhaled. Do you believe love can heal even the deepest generational wounds? Comment below. Would you forgive your family's past if it meant saving your future? Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as you can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.